All right, welcome everybody. I hope you are all doing quite well today. If you can hear me and I do not sound like a chipmunk, would you please put a 1? If you can hear me and I do sound like a chipmunk, then you can put a 2 and I'll know that I have to fix it. Hey Liz, how are you? Woohoo! Miss Catherine, how are you? Hey critters. Nancy Schmidt, hi there. Mira, welcome. Hi Sundown Farms, welcome. And Bagpuss, how are you? All right, I think I missed a few people. Miss Catherine, Liz, Nancy Schmidt. No, I didn't. I got everybody. Good deal. All right. Number 1, I have had a bad cough, and so I'm not sick now, but it's just kind of, you'll hear me clearing my throat. I'll try not to do it too often. And I am getting in on this Dylan Rounds case. It's so complicated. The choice of topics is crazy related to the Dylan Rounds disappearance. If these little birds don't hush, I'm going to have to definitely give them away. No, I'm kidding. Okay. It is such a crazy case, Mira. And what here's where I stand, right? My question to myself is, what can I bring to the table that has not really already been brung? Because there's so many people that are talking about it. So we do know of the very unique private investigator. Are y'all happy with that? This very unique private investigator who has never been to Lucin. But he seems to know everyone and everything there. And I find it odd that he speaks with such great authority about things that he's never actually seen, right? It's a crazy kind of disconnect. So I'm curious about that. It bothers me, and I don't mind saying I don't like the way that he spoke to Dylan Round's mother. I sometimes think he's creating a great deal of distraction, although he's bringing with him a great deal of information. So it's a bit, confusing maybe at best. So I thought I would just kind of follow the rabbit hole and comment if I find something that seems unusual and out of the ordinary. I thought that I would comment on it. Okay, so that's kind of where I am. I know that the majority of you guys, if you have heard, let me say it this way: if you have not heard of Dylan Round's disappearance, put a 1 and let's see, because I really expect that everyone here will know. You've already heard about it. You've already listened to the private investigator and the family. Hey, Team Doocy Doo. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, isn't it, Liz? Oh, there are a couple of people who haven't heard about it. Hi, Liz. And Jack Hughes, and Jay Hughes. Okay. Okay, so So I really thought everybody would have heard about um, Dylan Round's disappearance. And so, okay, I'll just kind of go briefly, or maybe perhaps not so brief. I'll just go into the background about what is happening. So Dylan Rounds is a 19-year-old kid, young adult. Um, East Idaho News, the one who's bringing us all the information about Valo Daybell. So East Idaho News has kind of gotten in on the story now, which is great because we've all developed a lot of trust in East Idaho News. But anyway, Dylan, 19-year-old kid, he lives in eastern Idaho on a farm in Lucin, Utah. Okay. Now this case involves Lucin, Utah, Montello, or Moncello, Nevada, no, Idaho, and then Nevada. So it's all kind of happening at this three corners kind of area. And what's so notable about Lucin and Moncello is that these are places that are sincerely isolated. I mean, kind of think about the Sahara Desert, but in the USA. Or here's a more accurate description. It's basically the Badlands, right? It is considered a desert environment. It looks very much like Wild West. I have to do something with my crazy birds. I am so sorry. They were so quiet, and then the minute I start talking, they just get in on the action. So let's take an intermission. I invite all of you to go find some popcorn, grab you a Diet Coke, and I'll meet you right back here in 3 minutes. Okay. How's that? Okay. I put the birds in another room so that we could have a conversation that was uninterrupted by squawks and the cacophony of the parrot. Okay, I'm at the Saddle Sore bar. No, you're not, Jay Hughes. Jay Hughes, I don't believe you. You tell me the truth. Okay, people. We have 49 people in here, 48 if we don't count Jay Hughes, who's at the Saddle Sore bar. If you believe Jay Hughes, put a 1. If you think Jay Hughes is pulling our legs, put a 2. I'm hearing Jay Hughes. The question is, where the hell are you? That's the question. Who believes him? If you believe him, put a 1. If you disbelieve, put a 2. Hang on, Jay Hughes. You may be about to get your feelings hurt. Look, even Critters is showing all the legs that you're pulling, Jay Hughes. At the cowboy. That is too funny. Jay Hughes, a question for you, my friend. How much have you had to drink? How many beers have you had today? I'm good. Okay. How many beers have you had? Any? We're waiting on an answer from Jay Hughes at the Saddle Sore. He's thinking. Angela Critters is offering up beers for Jay Hughes. Come on, Hughes. How much have you had to drink? More than 3? Do we need to play the Jeopardy theme as you try to remember how many you've had to drink? It's not a trick question. Let me count them. 0. Oh, okay. So you're a sober saddle sore patron. Why are you at the saddle sore, Jay Hughes? What are they offering up that you're interested in? I got to tell y'all, I'm getting closer to believing Jay Hughes that he is at the saddle sore. He's going to be very interested. If this is true, hey, Sky's World, welcome. Glad you made it. Patrons on the offer. Okay. Oh my gosh, that place is cray. What? Okay, Jay Hughes, you just lost me. I don't think you're at the saddle sore. Jay Hughes, please order me some fried pickles, crispy. And it's Jules. No way, Jules. No way. Are you sincerely there? Do you want to go live? You want to go up on panel and talk? That is so fun. Are you really there? I'm telling you, Jules it's earning her wings all the miles that she's traveling. This is who I think it is. Oh, you guys, I can't eat fried pickles. I just can't. There's something in my brain that says this is not natural. Do not put that in your mouth. Fried pickles, it's not natural, people. Don't do it. I love me some fried alligator. I will definitely meet some fried alligator. They're only open maybe one day a week. The Wadsworth don't like to work. No food. So they're just up there slinging beer then. Huh. Well, let's talk about the Wadsworth, Jay Hughes. Jules, shall we? Just like a zucchini. Okay. Yeah. So the Wadsworth. This is very interesting. Now, it does seem like we have an awful lot of knowledge and information about Dylan Rounds, his family, okay, we're going to get into that, Jay Hughes, because I'm kind of with you that, the beer that they're slinging may just be a cover for something else, right? So, but you can't point your finger and say that. But there's some very curious things out in the desert in Idaho, Utah area. There's some strange coincidences out there that I can at least verify by, news reports. Now the information that we have is coming from this very colorful character, the private investigator who's never been there, who said that it was his plan to never be there because he doesn't want to lose his PI license. It's all quite confusing. I've mentioned a couple of chats. Are they growing weed? I think I'm not so sure it's weed, Sally. But anyway, so let's, money laundering. Jay Hughes. All right, let's see where this takes us, Jay. I'll be interested, Jules, to see what your thoughts are. Okay. So Lucin, Utah. Okay, so this kid, this 19-year-old Dylan Rounds, handsome young fellow, definitely out of the ordinary. His grandpa buys him, is it true, 600-acre farm in the Utah, Idaho desert? Is that what you guys have heard? 600 600 acres of desert land that they're going to try to grow stuff on, correct? So it's very unusual. Now, people go out there and they hunt. There's hunting leases. They've got like different types of like antelope and, things like that. So why would a grandpa take a high school dropout who was in ag? He loved the agriculture classes, but he dropped out of high school. He didn't finish high school. His grandfather, who, are we guessing there's money in the family? I'm guessing yes, based on the fact that someone just came up with $100,000 cash reward. So he buys this kid a 600-acre farm that's essentially desert. All right. There's some very curious things about this particular farm with nothing growing on it. There does seem to be an international airport. All right, Jay, you with me, Jules? There's an international airport only 5 miles from the trailer that Dylan Rounds lives in. 5 miles. Right? This family name, Wadsworth, it definitely seems to be all over the place. And I want to remind you, even though it feels like we know a lot, please remember what we know is because we have this very colorful character, this private investigator, who has gone, the man is making the social media rounds. Okay. Can I just say that? He's going on any channel that will let him talk. And I'm going to be honest, he is interesting to listen to. Now, many people call him negative. They give negative appraisals of him. They say he's rude. They say he's crude. They say he's a liar. They say he's a narcissist. They say that he's only trying to get information or attention for himself. I don't know about all that. All I know is what he's saying on these channels. Hell, he went on channel with Scott Reich. By the way, Scott, you looked really tired. I hope you're feeling better. But he went on channel with Scott Reich. It was interesting. He did not curse, not one time, with Scott Reich. But then he goes on other channels and it's just like a drunk sailor. So he's definitely able to change and on what he thinks the audience may want. When he goes on to no thanks, he's a little bit more abrupt and a little bit more crude. He goes on Scott Reich, he's to the point. He's information, no kind of rudeness, no kind of cursing or anything like that. Always, regardless of where he goes, he's always sort of promoting himself, right? I mean, he wants people to know that he plays football. He wants people to know that he's the greatest, private investigator. He wants people to know the things that he's able to do as a private investigator that police officers would not be able to do. So, to listen to him, it's a full 60-minute Phil Donahue show, right? I mean, he doesn't just get on and give you a couple of facts. I mean, he's really doing a lot of talking. And the names that continue to come out of his mouth all start with a W for the most part. It's Wadsworth, 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 and what may be their cronies, right? Maybe some of their friends on the side. But definitely Wadsworth seems to be the focus. And the biggest focus of all is a guy named Kurt Wadsworth, right? Now, this guy right here is not Kurt Wadsworth, the guy that's on the screen. This would be Kurt Wadsworth's brother. That's his brother. So why don't we have a photo of Kurt Wadsworth up on the screen, since he seems to be, according to the private investigator, JT is right on. Okay, so Jay Hughes says that JT's doing a good job. Okay. But why do we have a picture of Kurt Wadsworth up here on the screen? Well, because nobody has a picture of Kurt Wadsworth. And that may be because he's gender fluid, apparently. Sometimes Kurt enjoys being a man with no makeup, and sometimes Kurt enjoys playing the gender role of a female, and he wears lots of makeup. And again, this is information that's coming from the colorful private investigator. Okay, so please keep this in mind as we go through this. All of this is on the back of a guy as a private investigator who's never been there, but he seems to know what he's talking about. So I'm just trying to give you all the facts, okay? Just want to give you the facts so that you stay with me. We'll all communicate, okay? Now, the FBI is now involved in this. Dylan went missing about a month ago. And he was missing for quite a while before the cops would say, okay, it's probably weird that he's missing. So the parents are saying, no, the parents are divorced, okay? The mother herself seems to be colorful and strong as a female role model goes. I think the thing that bothers me the most about the colorful private investigator, I think he's bringing up a lot of things that have nothing to do with the price of eggs in China, right? If I don't care what Kurt does, but where is it? Yeah, I'm with you, Quinny. We're getting there. Hang on. Hang with me. So I'm a bit concerned about the colorful private investigator, that he's bringing in a lot of information that really does not seem to have anything to do with a 19-year-old kid with a 600-acre farm going missing in the middle of a rainstorm in Lucin. Right? I don't care about Kurt and what his proclivities are. Doesn't matter to me. People can be violent as playing female gender role or playing male gender role. Okay? That doesn't have anything to do with the problem that we've got a 19-year-old missing. And to make it even more confusing or curious, there was another young man that went missing 5 weeks before Dylan rounds. And he was less than 100 miles away from this desert area in Lucin. And he's a spitting image for Dylan. They could be brothers. They could be twin brothers, really. I don't know how he fits into this thing. They're doing a search for him this weekend. When you consider it was about an hour and a half drive from Lucin, where Dylan's farm is, it's a little unnerving. It's too close. It suggests some type of serial problem, right? Now then, or something more nefarious, even I would say, than a serial killer. So I'm looking for some evidence of Kurt. But because the colorful PI is so focused on Kurt, who the hell is Kurt, right? So that's when I ran across this curious bit of information. Hold on, I'm going to share. Oh, wrong thing. There we go, right there. Okay. Now, this is an obituary from a guy named Kurt Kevin Wadsworth. And it's from Tampa Bay, I think, Florida, right? And so you may say, well, are you crazy, Jules? Like, why are you looking at this guy who's, obviously a nice enough looking fellow, right? I mean, he just looks pretty safe and, pretty interesting. But I want you to pay attention to his eyes. Take a good long look at his eyes. And look at his eyes. They're pretty close it's hard to say, but really it's close enough, both of them having this this connection. So I started looking into this guy that's passed away, and lo and behold, where's he from? Utah. Okay, so this guy's from Utah. He died in 2015. Now, the colorful PI says that Kurt Wadsworth, I'm talking about the Kurt Wadsworth that's supposed to be alive right now, cross-dressing as he's the 61-year-old boyfriend to Dylan Rounds. Yeah, I don't buy it either, but just go with me. So he's supposed to be 61-year-old man who is dating or abusing 19-year-old Dylan Rounds, and they apparently knew each other for a couple of years. So the accusation by the colorful PI is that this Kurt, not this one on the screen, but some man named Kurt Wadsworth, who is 61 years old and wears lipstick, has been abusing the 17-year-old for 2 years, making him now 19 years old. That's the story coming from the colorful PI. And then I ran across this. And when I looked into Kevin Wadsworth, I found out, oh, look, this family is from Utah. Very interesting. And then I said, gosh, that age looks really weird, like 57 to 2015. Like, how old would that make this guy? How old would he be? 61 at the time that Dylan would have been 17, right? So I'm going, wait, this is just one of those weird coincidences. So I can to look into this, because then I'm thinking, here's what I'm thinking. Then I'm thinking, did some joker come along and take this guy's persona, right? Like identity theft kind of deal. Okay. Now, again, pay attention to this guy's eyes, his nose, the kind of the structure of his face, right? So then I think, well, maybe some unscrupulous guys took over his persona, ended up in Lucin, where they, began to do felonious business under the name of Wadsworth. All right, hold on. Now I'm going to share one more thing. And we're going to look at right here. Now that is one hands devil. Yeah. Come on, ladies. Tell the truth. Mr. Nate Ballard, he's a cutie, yeah? Cutie patootie. He's not really the one that we're interested in. The one we're interested in is the one on far left and the one on far right. And what are their names? Kip and Cade Wadsworth. Are you getting a pattern here with all the K names? Right? Okay. Where are you going, Jay Hughes? Okay. So we have a Kip Wadsworth. We have a Cade Wadsworth. What is exactly the Wadsworth Development Group, and why in the hell is Jules looking at it? Well, because I'm trying to find Kurt Wadsworth, some guy from Utah or Idaho, right? And some connections to Nevada. And I keep running across this fella. And so I finally said, okay, I'll bite, Destiny. What the hell is the Wadsworth Development Group, and why do I keep running across this? So I started looking, and what they are is they are a very successful real estate development group. Where? Utah. Very successful. This is not a fly by night, group. This is a serious real estate development investment group. And so Kip Wadsworth and Cade Wadsworth, they are the CEO and the chief investment officer. And they think just to be all handsome and cute. And then we've got the general counsel, the senior corporate counsel, the vice president of development. Rhett, oh, Rhett, where shall I go? What shall become of me? Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Have we found Rhett Butler? No, that is Rhett Wadsworth, Director of Acquisitions and Business Development, and the head hunky cutie there at the real estate development company. I think the hunky cutie is trying to knock out this big guy as who's the cutest of all, but definitely they're the ones that are in competition for the cutest one there. Notice he's also a Wadsworth. There is Elizabeth Cole, the development director and development manager. We have a construction manager, a development assistant, an executive assistant, and then look at all these property managers we have. We have the CFO of property management. We have vice president of property and asset management. We have the controller. We have the senior accountant, the property accountant, accounts payable, maintenance engineer, and the facility engineer. This is a very large group of a very lucrative firm in Draper, Utah. Owned and managed by who? Kip and Cade Wadsworth. Oh, and Rhett. Can't forget cutie Rhett. Now, I am not suggesting, not for a moment, that these guys are up to no good in the Utah desert. Please don't think that. I'm not. But I'm feeling a little uncomfortable that in all of the places in this great United States of America, from sea to shining sea, how is it that we end up with a 19-year-old high school dropout with a 600-acre farm with nothing growing on it, and an international airport with 3 runways, and a cross-dressing Kurt Wadsworth that seems to share a great deal of DNA with Kip and Cade Wadsworth, who also looks like he's related to Kevin Wadsworth, who's been deceased since 2015, but he was 2 years ago 61 years old, coming from Utah. I don't really understand what's happening in the story, okay? But I do recognize when it's time to just acknowledge, okay, this is weird. So if you would agree, if you're watching this and you're going, it's weird. Like, for example, look at this Kurt. Look at his eyes. And then look at, I lost, where'd it go? And then look at Cade and Kip. Oh, I think I killed my channel. I did. I got to pull it back up. Hold on. If you can hear me, would you put a 1? The cat just jumped literally right in the middle of my keyboard and made all kinds of crazy things. Can you hear me? Please tell me you can hear me. Oh, good. Sorry about that. The cat, yeah, the cat got me. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so let me get the let me share the okay, so sorry. Let's get back to this. So I want to show you the Wadsworth. Okay, notice the eyes. It's the eyes. This is like one of those families that just sort of stamp the face on the person and everybody in the family looks exactly alike. It's like the DNA is so strong that everybody looks alike in the family. So look at his eyes. This is Kit, who's the top daddy dog. Look at his eyes. There they all are together. There's Rhett. Rhett. Oh, Rhett. This is Kit, and this guy's Cade. Now, do they look like the Marlboro Man, or do they look like they're running a multi-million-dollar real estate development company? I'm asking you. They look like, to me, they ought to be on the back of a horse somewhere, being all Marlboro-y kind of guys. Okay. So remember those eyes. And then look at this guy. What do you think? right? And again, this dude is dead. Pretty interesting. And here's the reason that I say it's interesting, because it looks like to me that it could be someone using his name. It's not really him, right? Now, there's one more curious and very interesting thing related to Dylan Rounds and the fact that he's gone missing in an incredibly mysterious manner. And that is a little Czechoslovakian. You heard me right. A little Czechoslovakian named Ivor Zdarsky. Well, who the hell, Jules, is Ivo Zdarsky? Ivo Zdarsky is the guy in charge of the Lucin International Airport, which is 5 miles from Dylan Round's camper. And essentially, this entire area is just one big ghost town. Now, the reason that they do call it a ghost, I mean, it's actually referred to as a ghost town. And the reason that Lucin is called a ghost town is because it was originally one of those cities that popped up along the railway as they were building the railroad. It died out. A few of the old railroad people tried to get it back up again and running again and never did. The majority of the buildings were flattened, gone, but this is the area where this town would have been. So I want you to stop for a minute and try to look around your own neighborhood and think to yourself, what is the most colorful, interesting person in the next 5 miles radius around me? And when you have the realization that actually you are the most interesting and colorful or notorious character in the 5 mile circle that you live in, then you may want to ask yourself how it is that the Lucin International Airport, with 3 runways, is 5 miles away from the camper of a missing high school dropout who is the proud owner of a 600-acre farm, who is tightly connected to the Wadsworth development company that's worth multi-millions and millions of dollars. It's quite a drama that's playing out on this admittedly historically ghost town. Mr. Ivo Zdarsky came from Czechoslovakia after privately building a hang glider, a propellered hang glider, where he escaped the Nazis to go to Austria and be hidden away from the long arm of the Third Reich before finally finding refuge and some good Samaritan that said, hey, we're going to take you and your ingenious propeller that you developed all on your own. We're going to move you to California, Mr. Zdarsky, and let you make propellers. And you yourself, Mr. Zdarsky, may become a millionaire. And then Zdarsky at some point decides, hey, guess what? I don't like this. I don't like living here with so many people close by and all these people. I just think I would rather have a little more space to ramble around if I need to. And at that point, he gets on an airplane that he made himself with his propeller that he invented, and he flies to what? The ghost town, where he has now purchased the airport, which is one runway, or well, it's actually 3 runways, but one decent runway and a building, a hangar. That's where he lives, in the middle of nowhere. They won't deliver the mail where he lives. But UPS, with whom he is on first name basis, UPS is happy to deliver to the hangar in the ghost town on the 600-acre farm that doesn't grow anything, but allows a 19-year-old dropout, high school dropout, to live happily. Now, you may ask yourself, but what does a ex-Czechoslovakian propeller inventor Ivo Zdarsky need living in a hangar on an international airport that only one plane ever comes or goes? What sorts of things would this man need? He goes to Ogden once a month to pick up groceries. So why does he need UPS bringing him packages out into the middle of nowhere? Well, like any recluse, he needs his 90-inch flat screen TV, his 4-foot tall speakers, his drum set, his very nice and highly cluttered desk. He needs a computer. He needs 2 mattresses in front of the 90-inch television, and he needs an upside down inflatable hot tub that is covered with a sheet so that it can actually act as a settee, aka sofa. So crazy. You may ask, who is this UPS fellow that is only more than happy to bring these thousands of dollars worth of items to Mr. Zdarsky, the ex-Czechoslovakian in exile? Well, the UPS driver's name is Brent. They're on first name basis. They speak regularly by phone. Brent lives in Ogden. He's serving the important function of being Ivo's lifeline to civilization. Now, one thing I didn't mention when I was telling you about the 90-inch television and the 4-foot tall speakers, I forgot to mention what was sitting on the upside down settee covered by a blanket, acting as a sofa. Assault weapons, AK-47s, just lying there. Why does an ex-Czechoslovakian living in exile in a ghost town in Utah need AK-47s? Well, to kill the badgers, of course. Don't you understand? The badgers tunnel underneath the runways for the international flights. And if they tunnel too much, the runways might cave in. You simply cannot imagine the damage that these badgers can do, said Mr. Ivo Zardinsky. So excuse me, people, if I'm having a little bit of trouble swallowing this whole story. I'm having a whole lot of trouble. Let me say this. I'll show you a picture of Mr. Zardinsky. Can I just say this? Does he not look like a delightful fella? Sincerely, he does, doesn't he? He looks like the kind of guy that you would love to just sit around the campfire and just talk to him about, escaping the Nazis, right? He looks like a delightful fella, really. But man, this is one of those things, Bebop, that makes you scratch your head and go, So explain to me again, colorful PI. Why do we care about a 60-year-old man who may or may not be wearing lipstick? Why should we care about that, Mr. Colorful PI, when you've got a story sitting 5 miles from the camper that this kid lived in? Has anybody been able to find information on the grandfather who gifted this 600 acres to this young man? Who is he? Is it possible that he may be interested in Utah real estate development? We don't know. But I'm absolutely struck. Oh, yeah, for sure, Northern Illinois. I'm just repeating the story, okay? So this guy, the colorful PI, he's giving a lot of details, but so much of the details seem extraneous. They're peripheral. They're things that, while they might be a little seedy and interesting, they really don't have anything to do with why this young man would have disappeared, correct? But I think it's critically interesting that there's an airport less than 5 miles away from where this kid lived with a really interesting character there. And one has to ask yourself, but why? Why is a guy who wants a 90-inch television and all these comforts like AK-47s, why is he happy to live in complete and total utter isolation in the middle of nowhere? And for sure, why would a 19-year-old kid want to live in utter isolation in the middle of nowhere? Right? It's curious. It's very curious. All right. I don't know what it means. Don't hold me responsible for these things. I just thought it was some crazy information. You're definitely getting the nitty gritty. It's weird, crime soap opera. And thank you for that name, crime soap opera. Your name actually just completely envelops the curiosity that is this case. We haven't even gotten to this point of talking about the mother and some of the curiosities in some of her reactions. And please don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that she's somehow connected. I'm just saying there are very interesting facts that should be front and center in this investigation that the colorful PI has not talked on. He's so focused on this idea that Kurt Wadsworth is a cross-dresser and that supposedly he's dating Dylan. I'm sorry. Suddenly he's dating Dylan, and that's supposed to be somehow at the heart of what went wrong. But as you get in and start reading some of these facts, no, I think there's other things that are far more important in terms of why this kid might have gone missing that don't have anything to do with these kind of seedy type of, attracting sensationalist type of facts. Is he intentionally focusing on the sensationalism? Right? That's my curiosity. Is he intentionally focusing on this so-called cross-dressing because people are supposed to go, ooh, wow, that sounds really bad, when you've got a guy at an airport living in the middle of nowhere, no contact with anyone. All he has is an airplane that he made himself, oh yeah, and a couple of AK-47s to kill the badgers, of course. Do you see my point? There's something else going on. There's something very curious going on out in the desert. I think it's like the Badlands. made it pretty clear she has lawsuits against her, 2.6 million. Yeah, but what were they for, Cinnamon? Do we know what they were for? I know, crime soap opera. It's deep and it's weird. I do take questions, Jorge. Let me get this straight, or I can't eat. Wadsworth, Colorado. Are they landowners, or is it more dirty law? No. Wadsworth Development Company. It is a fully functioning and highly lucrative real estate development company. They do have real estate holdings. Trust me, all night last night, literally, I slept about 2 hours this morning because the company kept coming up as I was searching for Kurt. The company kept coming up, and I said, okay, fine, I'll buy, kind of talking to, Destiny or whatever. It's hard to get away from that whole Kit, Cade, Kurt, it's hard to get away from it. I think it is very curious that a man named Kurt Kevin Wadsworth, who would have been 61 years old at the time that Dylan was 17, is actually passed away. So if he's dead, then who is the Kurt Wadsworth, 61 years old, that colorful PI is looking for? The Wadsworth family goes back to the gold rush days. Bet you there's gold and other minerals and oil on that land. Alessia, see, you and I are communicating. You know what went through my mind, Alessia, as I'm reading all of these articles and all of these discussion boards and whatnot? I kept thinking about Shia LaBeouf. Who knows why I was thinking about Shia LaBeouf? Anybody know? It has to do with a little movie named Holes. Yeah? Who remembers the movie Holes? Holes with Shia LaBeouf. What was that about? What was the movie about? Do you remember? PI did mention the wealth of the land without names. Yeah, great movie, crime soap opera. And it was a movie about treasure, right? They were digging the holes looking for. Okay. So do I think that they're out there digging holes looking for buried gold? No. Although I wouldn't be too surprised. Do y'all remember about the start of the pandemic when they were locking us down and saying everybody's got to stay at home, work from home? Did y'all hear about the money, the gold coins, the gold bullion that was found in California? Someone had buried a bucket full of gold coins beside a tree. And somehow or another, somebody ended up, I don't know if they pulled the tree up or exactly what happened, that these people ended up finding this gold. And listen, they turned it in. Can you imagine that? They turned the gold in. It ended up being something like $5 million worth of gold coins, right? And the belief was, am I right about this? Was it the Great Depression that they made owning gold bullion it was a crime to own gold bullion, that you had to turn it in to the government and get the cash for it, something like that. And the belief was that some wealthy person trying to protect their family's legacy had taken this $5 million worth of gold bullion and buried it, trying to hide it and not let, Uncle Sam take it away from them, right? Burying gold is actually something that many, many, many people did during that period of time, from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. People did not trust the banks at all. And so for families that ended up amassing a wealth and working really hard, they did bury the gold and the silver. And so you find people even today that go out and look around old home sites trying to find buried, coffee cans full of gold or silver. A couple that lives close to me was walking on a trail and tripped over a can on trail. It was full of gold coins worth a couple million. They got to keep it. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I don't think they got to keep it in California. I think it was confiscated. There are loads of minerals there, gold and lots of other things, oil as well. Right, Alessia. So I think when I hear, this is what's hard for me. When I hear you got a 19-year-old who did not graduate from high school, that his grandfather gifts to him 600 acres of highly valuable land, the minerals alone, right? You could take that land and turn it into a hunting lease and charge people like Barry Morphew lots of money to come hunt on your 600 acres. So it was a wealthy gift. I mean, it was an extravagant gift that was given to Dylan. And I just have to wonder, was somebody mad about that? Was somebody pissed off that their little playpen now had a resident on it? That previously they had not had to worry about anyone coming and going on their land. In other words, like nobody there to wonder why the hell there's an airplane landing at 2:00 in the morning in the middle of the desert. If you're trafficking something in and out of that desert in the middle of the night and there's no one around for miles and miles and miles and miles, then you don't worry about somebody seeing your airplanes landing and taking off. You got a guy living out there in a hangar with all the comforts of the world. He's got internet that is faster than what a lot of people have at home in town. Had that happen, which tells me he's got some kind of good satellite link, right? What's the point of him being there? He's got to be there for someone. So who's flying in and out of there? He said, oh, me, I'm the only one. See my little airplanes that I'm flying in and out? Not believable. Sorry, Mr. Zardinsky. It just doesn't ring true. So was it one of these things where the grandpa, maybe he owned all that land for years and years, maybe he owned a ton of land and he just was ready to give some of the inheritance away, divide it up. And he said, hey, I got 600 acres out here doing nothing with it, hon. You want to be a farmer? Knock yourself out. Get out there and get busy. Do with it what you want. It's yours now. Sign it over, lock, stock, and barrel. The problem is that there's a little, Lucin International Airport is sitting there less than 5 miles away. Now it's not so easy to fly in airplanes in the middle of the night without somebody knowing. Curious, right? And it made Yvette is onto something. Maybe that explains how they offed him and then flew the body out. We don't know. So I think a couple of points here to this live, and then I'm going to end it. Number one, all the information that we know is because a colorful PI guy going around making the rounds on all of the YouTube crime tube channels, right? Including, if you want to watch any of them, obviously Scott Rice, though he did look like he wasn't feeling well. Scott Rice, Feller, can't think of his name. I'll look it up. Something Feller. Did a really good job. Has talked to him a couple of times. I felt uncomfortable with the interview on no thanks, although I like no thanks. I'm not saying anything negative, but I didn't like, I felt like Colorful PI Guy was manipulative to no thanks. I didn't like how he controlled so much of the narrative. That bothered me a bit, but he did not do that on Scott Rice. So Scott Rice, Tyler Feller. Thank you, Freudian slip. I love Tyler Feller. Do y'all like that channel? It's great, isn't it? Yeah, I love Tyler Feller. So if y'all critters, or if y'all want to get Tyler Feller's link and drop it in the chat, you can. It's a good channel. I like Jim Terry, but that is him. No, Sandra, I'm not pleased. I'm not saying anything bad about Colorful PI Guy. His personality, he's very forceful, right? But one thing I noticed about him is that he, depending on whose channel he's on, he's a little bit different. Would you agree? So some channels he's a lot more controlling, maybe a little more offensive, colorful language. But I felt like the interview, the talk that was on Scott Rice, I think he may have been a little intimidated, or maybe he wasn't intimidated at all. Maybe he was just being polite, because Scott Rice's channel there's not a lot of screaming and carrying on. So anyway, that was a good channel to listen and get some information, and it not be a bunch of cuss words and stuff like that. All right. Thank you, critters. He tones down on Tyler's show and on Scott's show. He did. He really did, Sandra. And I appreciated that. I think when he toned down on it, I think you could hear his facts easier when he was toning down all the bravado. Would you agree? Is that a fair description? They probably did fly Dylan's body out of there and dropped him somewhere in the mountains where he will not be found. Okay, so there, I wanted to do this video because I felt like these are interesting facts. Again, the information I presented today is all facts that I got from either websites made by the company themselves or legitimate journalists that have written stories and featured these people, right? And I thought that it was helpful, and maybe I'm wrong, but I felt like it was helpful to add some perspective to this narrative that Colorful PI Guy is putting out, but to add a little bit more perspective that, hey, this doesn't necessarily have to do with gender fluidity, right? This may be good old-fashioned crime syndicate kind of stuff. And I'm a believer in Occam's razor. The simplest explanation is usually the right one. And it's a bit difficult to ignore the international airport in Lucerne. Would you agree? That's kind of, to me, that's really important information. And I have not heard a single person, the family interviews, all of that. No one has said a word about going out there to that airport and doing any kind of investigation. Why? If I were the FBI, that's the first damn place I would be, right? I may be wanting to get a look at those holes, those tunnels that those badgers have been digging underneath the runway. Hint, hint. Like, are those badgers 6'2" and speak Colombian Spanish? I mean, who are they? So when Heavy D was in his helicopter, he had to get permission from Hill Air Force Base to fly for 1 hour. Thank you, Karen. Yes. So Adventures with a Purpose were out there to try to help this family. And there's Air Force Base there where they're doing live rounds. They're having, war games. And he had to fly his helicopter, basically kind of maneuvering around the Air Force land. So tell me, could this thing get any crazier? You've got this whole military airspace thing going on. You've got the international airport where you've got to have AK-47s to protect you from the Badgers that are digging under your runway. Really? It's very strange. It's a very, very curious set of facts. If nothing else, it's curious that a 19-year-old kid has a 600-acre farm. If you don't want to talk about anything else, that right there is enough to make you go, that's not everyday stuff. That's a little out of the ordinary. Yes, they should go there. They should investigate the airport and the Wadsworth brothers. I would like to get down to who the hell is Kurt Wadsworth. There's a good place to start. I do not believe this stuff about Dylan being gay. Yeah, Alessia, that was part of what made me kind of dig in, like just open-minded. I just said to myself, okay, I'm going to research this. And I'm not going to consider anything that Colorful PI guy said, right? I'm just going to start listening to the family interviews, research the town of Lucin, Moncello, and just I watched Adventures with a Purpose being there. And I just said, I'm going to keep my mind open. I'm going to see if I see any combinations or parallels that are interesting and just see where the hell it takes us. I think it's important that there is an airport less than 5 miles from this kid's trailer, and the guy is living in the hangar, the bunker, whatever you want to call it, with every luxury imaginable. And he's some guy that escaped, the split up of Czechoslovakia and, the Baltics. And who is he? Like, what? So it's very odd. How's a 19-year-old all by himself supposed to farm 600 acres? I don't know. I do not know. A lot of people, Candace appears to frustrate a lot of people, Cinnamon. I agree. But can I also say this? Okay. Sometimes powerful and controlling women are not well received. It's not right. We shouldn't have to play games, but sometimes we do, right? Sometimes we do have to pretend we're not as powerful as we need to be based on the kind of men that we may or may not be working with. So is that what made him frustrated, or was it the fact that there was so much unusual things that were just sort of pushed aside and treated like, oh no, there's nothing unusual about that at all? Like Dylan saying, hey, a guy walked out of the desert with no shoes on, covered in blood, and isn't that cool? No, Dylan, that is about as unusual a situation as could be imagined. And I'm thinking, was that a threat to Dylan? Was that someone sending a message, if you don't leave, you're going to be in trouble? And then were his boots left there saying, see, we told you so. Don't bring anybody else out here or they're going to lose their boots too. You see what I mean? It sounds highly consistent with organized crime. Would not go to school, could not get along with his parents. Grandparents gave him all that without parents even knowing. And Cinnamon, why was he having such a hard time getting along with his parents and going to school? Was there any information about that? And where did she go when she disappeared for 3 or 4 years? I mean, is that why they're divorced? Did her husband divorce her? Yeah, FBI is involved. I verified that by looking it up. I think I got an article right here. Hold on. Yeah, Elko. Okay, so Dylan went missing on May the 28th. On June the 24th, Elko, the Elko Daily, which is the newspaper for that area, they said the FBI is now involved in the search for a Utah man. So he's been gone a month. They've been trying for 2 weeks to get some help from Box Elder and the two law enforcement groups. It just seemed messy. But anyway, so now the newspaper comes out on the 28th and says the FBI is now involved. Meanwhile, national media, including Fox News, have been reporting on the disappearance of Dylan Rounds of Lucin. East Idaho News in Idaho Falls reported on Wednesday that the FBI had confirmed involvement, saying the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office in Utah is still the lead investigator in the case. But Dylan's mom hates Box Elder police. Don't know why, but she's very clear she doesn't think they're doing a good job. Box Elder County volunteer teams have logged over 300 hours searching and covering over 3,000 miles, the sheriff's office said in a June 15th statement. Box Elder County Sheriff's Office detectives and deputies have been searching around the clock, weekdays and weekends. Detectives have spent more than 650 hours investigating. If someone is involved with Dylan's disappearance, they need to know we are not going to go away, said the Chief Deputy Cade Palmer of Box Elder County Sheriff's Office. If this takes months, if it takes years, we'll keep knocking on doors. The Elko County Sheriff's Office has been involved, but asked anyone with information to contact Box Elder officials. So it's the Elko County Sheriff and then the Box Elder, and they're sort of working. I think they're working against each other, but nevertheless, people don't. There's a lot of disagreement out there for there to be so few people living in the area. They're all fighting each other. It's weird. Fox News legal commentator and television journalist Nancy Grace interviewed Round's mother on her program. Colorful private investigator who has worked on many missing cases nationwide says he has been retained by the Rounds family members. He has spoken publicly about the case on the Tyler Feller YouTube channel. East Idaho News reported the Rounds had been farming in the desert town of Lucin during summer months over the past few years. His grandmother last spoke with him May 28th, and nobody had heard from him since then. There has been no sign of Rounds anywhere and no activity on his cell phone or bank accounts. Rounds reportedly told his grandmother in a phone call early in the morning on May 28th that he needed to move his grain truck out of the rain, which he did. A later search located his boots behind a pile of dirt 300 yards from his grain truck. Fox News reported the search by law enforcement officers included canines and drones as well as horseback. The surrounding area on the Utah-Nevada border is full of old mine shafts, caves, and tunnels. And Candace Cooley said there is a professional cave diver who had volunteered to help. That's probably Adventures with a Purpose. Dylan's parents have offered a $20,000 reward, but like I said, it's $100,000 now. They told Fox that there are a number of false rumors and fake fundraisers circulating on social media. Rounds was last seen at a cafe in Montello. That is the Saddle Sore. Okay, colorful PI claim that it's called the saddle sore because it's some sort of like hookup place for, I don't know, gay cowboys or gay farmers or whatever. No, I think it's probably just a cute name that they came up with for a restaurant. Now they're not feeding anybody anymore. They don't cook. They're just selling beer. But anyway, the name of it is a saddle sore. Elko County Sheriff's was notified when someone called on May 31st saying that Dylan was being held in a shed in Montello. They searched the residence with the consent of the owner. At the time, they reached out to Box Elder, offered assistance. We've been diligently working with Box Elder Sheriff's Office and providing resources. We've also escorted detectives into Nevada, where they have conducted interviews with people that may be associated with Dylan's case. The missing person case began 1 week after Elko Sheriff's Office announced it had suspended the search for the missing 19-year-old. There has been some question about why FBI would get involved, that normally they would get involved like if this had something to do with interstate transport or something like that. Maybe that is maybe they are looking at the airport. Maybe they are wondering the function of this airport, operating airport in the middle of nowhere, sitting 5 miles away from, Dylan's camper. Maybe they are wondering, is this fella Zdarsky, is he flying to Nevada in the middle of the night? Who knows? He claims he only flies to Ogden, Utah. But obviously there was something that brought the FBI, that made the FBI feel that they could get involved. So the other young man that went missing, his name is Aiden Clune, C-L-U-N-E. It's rather shocking because he's a spitting of Dylan. They could literally be brothers, maybe even twin brothers. So he went missing a little less than 100 miles away from Dylan's land. He parked his pickup truck on mile marker 23. It was about 8:50 a.m. on April 27th that the Nevada State Police found his car. There was some reports of him behaving erratically in an unusual way. He kept taking his shoes off, and then they try to put his shoes back on. And that's another thing that kind of gets me, right? I'm a little freaked out about the repetitive nature of this. We're walking alone in the desert with no shoes on. That's a little hard to look away from and dismiss. You got Aiden Clune, no shoes, walking around in the desert. You got this, bloody unnamed fellow. Well, he's not unnamed, but they gave his name. He was apparently investigated and it was okay. But, this bloodied guy shows up and has no shoes on that Dylan ends up talking to. And now we got Dylan gone, but his shoes are there. So somewhere out in the world, Dylan's walking around with no shoes on, I guess is the message. So you're foolish I think it would be a foolish proposition to ignore this clue of someone walking around with no shoes on. It's weird, right? It's curious. Clune did not have any warrants. There's no criminal activity connected to him. His age, it's possible he could have been having some kind of psychotic break. There were some tracks. They did end up getting overpowered and eroded by the rain and the snow. But basically, last time they could find any sight of Aiden, he was at Cherry Creek Mountains. Clune's mother has raised money for a reward, and that one is at $10,000. So Aiden Clune's mother has a GoFundMe, but Dylan Round's family does not. So do not go to the GoFundMe or any other fundraising group. They have stated clearly, We are not raising money, and we will not raise money. Apparently, someone connected to Dylan is got a lot of money. Is it the Wadsworth? I don't know, but it's a curiosity. It's an interesting thought. So this is my contribution this week to this question of Dylan Round and his disappearance. Okay. I wanted to provide some facts that were verifiable through journalism and published reports, to go along with the awful. I mean, the colorful PI has given us a lot of information, but sometimes I feel like he's really just focusing on the sensational rather than thinking through the information. And I think the airport is a big deal. I really do. Dylan spent a lot of time at Kurt Wadsworth Place. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Sun tunnels, they're big concrete tubes to get the sky and curvature of the earth. All right, peeps. Ooh, thing one, I'm so sorry. Yeah, my big 12-hour day was yesterday. It's pretty tough, isn't it? So hard. I definitely feel for you. All right. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Thank you, Purple Rain. Okay. So one request, people. We have 121 people in here. Would you please go down, find the little thumbs up button and mash that for me. I would really, really appreciate it. And I always, of course, love to read your comments below the video. So will you please do that? But the thumbs up is really, really helping. I can see my views going up as we're really careful to hit the thumbs up button. That tells the YouTube computers to go ahead. People are liking this video. Let's share it with some other people. So, I never used to ask people to hit the thumbs up because I felt foolish, but apparently it really does matter. So if you wouldn't mind, I would really appreciate it if you would just do that one little simple thing. Just find that little thumb and click it and let's see what happens, okay? My next video will be in about 4 hours. And I'm going to do Melanie Gibb. Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready to start getting fired up about the Vallow Daybell upcoming trial? Because it's coming, right? There is suggestion that Lori is in the middle of making a deal. I think she's going to try to take death off the table. And in exchange, I think she's going to roll over on Chad. I think that David Warwick and Melanie Gibb have some very interesting problems. Now, it's possible that law enforcement wanted to just focus on the main culprits. But I think that David Warwick and Melanie, if the cops really wanted to press them, I think they could find themselves in trouble. Yep. Look at that, a rainbow of hearts. I love it. I love it. It's very beautiful, Cinnamon. Thank you. Yeah, it's so interesting. Things are really, ramping up and getting interesting. Thank you, Critters. I appreciate all your help so much. All right, peeps. If you have hit the thumbs up, then you are excused. All right. Okay, y'all. I will talk to you again later. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys and have fun and chit chat about these cases that we're also interested in. And I'll be back again. Me and Arnold. You'll never get rid of me and Arnold. I'll be back.